Go ahead, Teddy. Let's talk about Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis. It's the fight everyone wants to see. Who wins? What happens? Break it down, please.
Well, if the fight happens, first of all, once it's really going to happen, once it's agreed to in terms where the fighters already, have agreed to getting in the ring, we will have Ryan Garcia on this show talking about it. We will have him. He's already talked to me about being on the show, and we've had him on the show before. We'll be glad to have him on. I like him as a kid anyway. I'm not, hiding anything. I like him as a kid. I think that he's gone through some tough times already as a young kid. He's only 24 years old. Some mental issues, as far as the depression and different things. It's personal. He hasn't gone into it, but he's been honest about it. He's had some issues with that. He's dealt with that. He's gone through that. I think that he's matured a lot also as a fighter, as a person in the last 2 years, year and a half. I think there was a lot of stuff going on after his Campbell fight. That was the big fight. He got dropped. He got off the floor. He showed the making of a fighter, the making of a champion. Cuss used to tell me, if you could get off the floor, you got the making of a champion. A lot of people said, he got on the floor with a guy who Campbell. He's not a big puncher, whatever, but he got up and he stopped Campbell with a beautiful body shot, left hook, which is his forte, the counter left hook. This wasn't a counter left hook. This was a lead left hook. He's a good puncher with the left hook. But as I say, Ryan is growing. He's maturing, I believe. I see that in him. Where he comes up as the underdog probably in this fight would be as far as experience. There's no doubt that Tank Davis has been in with the not only more fights, but the better level of fighters. There's no doubt about that. Tank Davis has been in with the better competition. He's, as I talk about a lot of times with this game, he's had more questions asked and answered than Ryan Garcia has up to this point in his career. There's no doubt about that. Does Ryan Garcia need a little more time before taking on a guy like Tank Davis? I don't know. But I don't necessarily think that he does need more time. I think he's matured enough in the last year. We're not 100% sure. We won't be until he gets in that ring. But that experience factor is important. It is important to have those questions in your own mind. Answered. Asked and answered. And part of this business, a big part of this business, is the pressure of this business. It ain't easy, talk about mental health. Life ain't easy. But then you add the dimension to it that you're a fighter. And you got to get in the ring with another man to make your living. That adds pressure to the whole equation of life. That ain't easy. There's a lot of jobs out there that ain't easy. That's one of them. That, to have to get into that chamber of truth, that squared circle, and face all your inhibitions. Lay them all out there. Really, get naked, if you will. Really, that's what boxing for me. That's, if it's going to be explained to a layman, that's how I would explain. Getting naked, getting into the ring and bearing everything and being able to deal with all of those fears, all of those inhibitions that have been in your life up to this point, being able to deal with all of those things coming to the forefront. That's fighting. Yeah, it's physical. Yeah, it's about, the X's and O's, and it's about lefts and rights, and about body work, and about defense and offense, about control and range, all of that. Footwork, everything. Speed, power, timing. But it's also the mental part, 75% of it. And, kind of like that saying, watch that first step. It can be a doozy. Well, watch that part of it. It can be a doozy. That's the part that separates people, is that part. Handling that pressure every day. And I think that Ryan was feeling that. And at 24, 23 years old, 22 years old, was feeling that. And as all fighters do. As I said, Tank is more down the road, having been in there with more experienced guys. But I tell you the big difference in this fight with this Garcia versus the other Garcia. First of all, big difference. This Garcia is bigger. He's stronger. Unlike the last Garcia that Tank just beat, this Garcia is a good puncher. Tank Davis is that power guy. We got it. TNT. Garcia can punch. He can punch, especially with that left hook, the counter left hook. He can punch, and he's getting bigger. He has gotten bigger. He's still filling out. He up until a year ago, he was probably still growing. And so you got a bigger guy. Also, if he has a physical edge, he could, I don't know if he matches the power of Tank, but he's right there. But he probably passes Tank in speed, and in length, and in size. He's bigger, he's longer, and he's fast. He's got faster hands. So he's got those things going. And Tank's no slow guy. But Tank has dealt with all that before. He's dealt with taller guys. He usually fights taller guys. He's not a giant as far as that goes. So he knows how to take away the range. He knows how to close the gaps. He knows how to even get you to give up your height, like he did with Rolly, and set traps and get you to shrink yourself to come to him. So it'd be a heck of a fight. It would be a matter of Garcia would have to control the outside, what the other Garcia the other night was trying to do. But he's got a better jab. He's got a longer jab. He's got faster hands. He's got more power. He's got something to make Tank Davis have to worry about a little bit, to be a little more respectful of. Where when he's closing the gap, he'd have to worry about the power of that left hook. That's important. He's got something to keep Tank a little respectful in those areas. A little bit, mindful in those areas. And that's important. Garcia would have to control the range. He would have to make Tank pay a price for real estate. Charge him, you want a foot of real estate to close in on me, then it's going to cost you 3 left hooks. Whatever. Instead of dollars, it's punches. That's the currency in the ring. So he'd have to fight that kind of fight, and here's the key. He'd have to fight it all night. There's no margin for error. He would have to be consistent all night long and keep his concentration all night. Not like the other Garcia who looked out the ring to see what was going on in the stands. No, he would have to be laser point focused on one thing, Tank Davis, all night long, and be consistent. Because one mistake with Tank Davis and the fight's over. I mean, you could survive it, but the fight could be over. So what does Tank Davis have to do? He's got to do what he does. He's got to close the gaps. He's got to use feints sometimes. He's a smart fighter. He's got to close the gap. He's got to use all the tricks in the arsenal, not just the power. If he's got to set a trap, he'll set a trap. If he could get Ryan to go for it, to bite on it, he should do that. Feint to let him think he's coming in, get Garcia to make his step out, maybe premature, then start to close after him. The jab, just like it was the other night, the jab would be the key for both fighters to control that outside range, that outside distance. The jab would be, I'm kissing to my best friend in the whole world, my grandson who came home from school, who's being very good. He's not coming in here bothering Papa while he's doing his podcast, but he loves Papa so much, and Papa loves him so much that he had to give him a wave. He had to give me a wave and a kiss, and I couldn't ignore him. I thought about it, but I couldn't ignore him. At the end of the day, Tank would do, like I said, Tank would have to close the gap. The jabs would be instrumental. Both guys' jabs. Ryan Garcia's jab would have to be snappy, would have to be hard, it would have to be fast, which it is. It would have to control range. It would have to dictate the terms of the fight, the geometry of the fight, if you will, inside that ring. Because the geometry would have to be owned by Ryan on the outside. And Tank would like to get the geometry to be closer. But the jab would be the key. Geography, I'm sorry. The key would be the jab. The jab would be the key. Where it would be Tank Davis' jab. He doesn't throw it quite as often, but it's straight, it's accurate, it's hard, and he could be aggressive with it. That's what he would probably try to do. While I'm not saying Garcia would be defensive with it, but it would be more along the lines of him kind of marking his territory, drawing a line in the sand that you're not going to cross this line, if you will. So it's a fight that there's a lot of fights out there we love to see. We're probably not going to see them. This one is one we would love to see. Hopefully we will see it. Like I said, once we know that fight's going to happen, to all the fans out there, and his 8 million followers, I think Ryan Garcia has like 8 million followers or something, something like that, almost as many as you. With all of that, Ryan will come on this show, and he will break that fight. He will talk about that fight and what it means to him and everything else.
Yep, that'll be a good one. Well, Teddy, appreciate you. Nice to be back in action. Have the calendar start back up again. Relatively slow week next week. We've got a UFC fight night, and there's a small heavyweight show in Verona, New York. But I'm sure if there's something worth discussing, we'll have no shortage of material for next week, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We appreciate you. You got anything else, Teddy, before we say goodbye?
No, just keep those prayers coming for Damar Hamlin, because they sure as heck have worked. And keep that love. Keep that love going, guys, because you know what? It's a good thing. Damar started something he didn't mean to, but he started something really, really important here, bringing this country back and reminding us all that we are all part of the same thing. The human race, human race, and there's a camaraderie with that should never be lost. Just because we have differences of opinion or this or that, it should never be lost. That love should always exist. That care for others should always exist.
That's
Later,
it.
kid.
All right, guys. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you guys next week.